Welcome back to the Rules Plus podcast. Today's episode is the 11th of 12 preseason episodes focused on the 12 chapters of the Rogers-Redding Study Guide to NCAA Football Rules, now authored by George Demetrio. In the last 10 episodes of the podcast, we have reviewed the corresponding chapters of the study guide, beginning with advice in the opening chapter for productive study using the study guide. The subsequent 9 episodes after that have covered what the late Rogers-Redding referred to as phases of the game, reflecting his philosophy that our study of the rules should account for the symbiotic, interdependent nature of football rules. If you haven't listened to earlier episodes, I recommend them to you for their coverage of the guide's chapters 2 through 10 about, respectively, recent rules changes, the kicking game, scrimmage requirements, the passing game, the running game, the clock, major fouls, scoring, and substitution. So, for today, on to Chapter 11, Penalty Enforcement in Depth. If you've been listening to this series of episodes based on the Rogers-Redding Study Guide, you know I've made no secret of my affinity for its approach to rule study based on what it refers to as phases of the game rather than on a plodding, rule-by-rule slog. I've used the metaphors of neighborhoods of rules and sibling rules to characterize the rules book as an eclectic collection of rules sources rather than a lineup of individual rules silos. For no phase of the game is it more certain that we need an integrative approach to rule study than for mastering penalty enforcement. While among the 9 playing rules preceding Rule 10, there typically are explicit penalty provisions for specific fouls covered in a rule, there are many places in the rules book where that's not true. For example, Section 1 of Rule 9 includes 18 articles covering the full collection of personal fouls, but there are explicit instructions for penalty yardage and enforcement spot for only Articles 3, 4, 11, and 16. All the fouls carry a 15-yard penalty, but what are the enforcement spots for fouls other than those in the 4 sections? Certainly, Rule 10 covers the general principles for determining enforcement spots, but there's also important general information in Rules 3, 5, 6, and 8, too. Rule 3 addresses the special provisions in effect during extra periods when there are fouls after a change of team possession. Rule 5 addresses down and possession after a penalty. Rule 6 addresses options for Team B for fouls by Team A during a free or scrimmage kick. Rule 8 addresses the complications introduced when there are fouls during a try that happen before or that happen after a change of team possession, or when there are fouls by both teams. So buckle up. Here's a quick and dirty tour of penalty enforcement. Talking the talk. Chapter 11 of the Redding Guide has a bone to pick with us for failing to speak precisely about fouls and penalties. The two terms are not, insists the chapter, interchangeable. Perhaps you can see why this professional writer speaking to you today and editor speaking to you today loves the Redding Guide so much. The guide says that, quote, it is appropriate at the beginning of our penalty enforcement discussion to make the distinction between a foul and a penalty, end quote. And in fact, the guide is not simply being pedantic about this. It's important to note, for example, that a foul cannot and does not ever go away. A foul is never accepted or declined. The penalty for a foul may be declined, or fouls by both teams may offset and the penalties may cancel, but the liability imparted by a foul for a player to be disqualified remains. So, to be clear, a foul is an infraction of the rules, while a penalty is the consequence of that infraction, involving a loss of yardage, a loss of down, an automatic first down, a clock runoff, a disqualification, or some combination of those sanctions. Any penalty may be declined or accepted. Fouls are neither declined nor accepted. The fundamental classification of fouls is based on whether they occur while the ball is dead or while it's alive. Usually, it's easy to determine whether a foul occurs during a dead ball or live ball interval. But to determine the status of fouls that occur just at the ball's transition from dead to live or live to dead requires knowledge of specific provisions. For example, if Team A breaks a traditional huddle and snaps the ball without all 11 players pausing simultaneously for a 1-second count, it has committed an illegal shift, which is usually a live ball foul, because Team A has the opportunity to execute the required pause up until the moment the snap occurs. There are other fouls as well that don't pass the point of no return until the snap, such as illegal formation or illegal motion. Those fouls are regarded as, quote, occurring at the snap, end quote, and in 714, they are penalized as live ball fouls. But in the case of breaking the huddle and snapping the ball without the required pause, 712B5 provides that, quote, never coming to a 1-second stop prior to the snap after the ball is ready for play is an illegal shift that converts to a false start, end quote, which is a dead ball foul. At the snap, officials must whistle the play dead and enforce the penalty for this specific foul that is deemed by rule to be a dead ball foul. So the dead ball versus live ball distinction between acts affects whether certain actions are fouls or not. An obvious example is an otherwise legal tackle of a ball carrier, which is not a foul while the ball is alive, but becomes a foul if the ball has become dead, as when the ball carrier has gone out of bounds. Understanding the dead ball versus live ball distinction may matter crucially in whether a certain foul should be called. But understanding the dead ball versus live ball distinction is also crucial in determining penalty enforcement and even in determining whether the continuity of a series of downs has been broken. Consider a fourth down play in which a Team B tackler uses a horse collar tackle to bring down the ball carrier at the sideline short of the line to gain. Was the tackle during the live ball interval when the tackler first grabbed the side collar of the ball carrier's jersey? Or was it during the dead ball interval that began when the ball carrier touched the sideline? Did the illegal tackle occur before the ball carrier went out of bounds or after? The covering official must determine whether the action constitutes a live ball or a dead ball foul. If it's a live ball foul, the 15-yard penalty would be enforced from the end of the run, with an automatic first down for Team A, as provided in 9-1-15, concerning horse collar tackle, and 10-2-2-D-1-B, which concerns the basic spot for runs that end beyond the neutral zone. If it's a dead ball foul, the 15-yard penalty would be enforced from the succeeding spot, 10-2-2-A. That means the ball belongs to Team B because Team A has failed to earn a first down, 5-1-1-C, so Team B is awarded a new series. The provision for an automatic first down is irrelevant, since Team B will next put the ball in play. Accepted penalties for dead ball fouls are always enforced from the succeeding spot, which is always the spot where the ball will next be put in play by a snap or a free kick. 2-25-3. The enforcement of penalties for dead ball fouls includes another quirk not found when live ball fouls have occurred. Dead ball fouls can never be part of an offsetting fouls situation, though In certain situations, the yardage penalties can cancel. If multiple dead ball fouls occur, the penalties are enforced from the succeeding spot in the order of occurrence, 10-1-5. This means that technically there can be multiple succeeding spots in a single dead ball interval, which leads Chapter 11 to introduce two terms I hadn't heard of before. After a first dead ball foul is enforced, that succeeding spot becomes an initial succeeding spot. The next dead ball foul is then administered from a new succeeding spot, which actually serves as an interim succeeding spot if yet a third or other subsequent dead ball fouls are to be enforced. Such a situation actually rarely occurs, but I find that Chapter 11's coining of those new terms interesting. And there are two more Chapter 11 invented terms. Penalties, the chapter says, for dead ball fouls by the same team are stacked. Penalties for dead ball fouls by opposing teams are netted. But there is an important exception to stacking and netting in 10-1-5. When dead ball unsportsmanlike conduct fouls or dead ball personal fouls by both teams are reported to the referee before completion of any of the penalties, the yardage penalties cancel, and the next down will be the same as it would have been had the fouls not occurred, regardless of whether one team has more fouls than the other. But player disqualifications will still be enforced. One important purpose of the rule is to prevent an advantage being gained when half the distance yardage provisions would favor one of the teams. Finally, there is one additional quirk with unsportsmanlike conduct fouls. Such fouls by players during a live ball interval are treated as live ball fouls, but unsportsmanlike conduct fouls by anyone besides a player during a live ball interval are treated as if they occurred in the dead ball interval that follows the down. Players used to be granted similar license to misbehave during the live ball interval, but no more. The classic gaffe we see is the player who taunts an opponent by high-stepping or showing the ball to the opponent's face as the ball carrier approaches the end zone. Such taunting will be penalized 15 yards from the spot of the foul, resulting in a very, very hard lesson learned by that ball carrier. Live ball fouls and two all-purpose enforcement principles. I've already talked about live ball fouls that occur simultaneously with the snap as acts that happen while the ball is dead, but that don't become a foul until the ball is snapped. 10-1-2. The rationale, to repeat, is that the illegal action can be corrected up to the time the ball is put in play. Such fouls occurring at the snap are live ball fouls enforced from the previous spot, unless there are certain explicit exceptions. 8 penalty enforcement spots are specified in Section 25 of Rule 2, along with several other spots not directly identifiable as enforcement spots. If explicit directions for yardage and enforcement spot are not included in a penalty statement for a rules infraction, we have two fundamental principles for administering a penalty, based on the concept of 1, basic spot, and the concept of 2, post-scrimmage kick spot. Let's look at them now in turn. Principle 1, the basic spot. The basic spot is defined in 225.10 as a, quote, benchmark for locating the enforcement spot for penalties governed by the 3-and-1 principle, 2-3.3, and the procedure for determining that benchmark are provided in 10.2.2d. The 3-and-1 principle is aptly described as what we should do when, quote, the penalty statement for a foul does not specify the enforcement spot, end quote. I might add that the principle also tells us what to do when there is no penalty statement at all, which is true for many fouls. The principle is this. There are 4 possible places a team can commit a foul relative to the basic spot. 1. The team in possession can foul behind the basic spot. 2. The team in possession can foul beyond the basic spot. 3. The team not in possession can foul behind the basic spot. And 4. Yes, the team not in possession can foul beyond the basic spot. In 3 out of the 4 cases, a penalty will be enforced from the basic spot. In the one situation when the team in possession fouls behind the basic spot, that was situation number 1, a penalty will be enforced from the spot of that foul. Hence the term for the principle 3 and 1. The basic spot is specified for each of the possible plays that can occur during a down, as listed in Section 30 of Rule 2. So the possible plays that can occur during a down: forward pass play, the interval between the snap and when a legal forward pass is complete, incomplete, or intercepted; kick play, a free kick or scrimmage kick interval when the ball is legally kicked and when it comes into player possession or is dead by rule; running play, any live ball action other than during a free kick play, a forward pass play, or a scrimmage kick play, which includes the run interval when a ball carrier possesses the ball, and a loose ball interval if the ball carrier loses possession by fumbling, passing backward, or passing forward illegally. The spot where possession is lost is referred to as the end of the run portion of the running play. The basic spot for a forward pass play is the previous spot. The basic spot for a kick play is the previous spot unless post-scrimmage kick rules apply. If post-scrimmage kick rules apply, or that is PSK rules, the basic spot is the spot where the kick ends. TSK rules can only apply to a scrimmage kick play. The basic spot for running plays depends on where the run ends. When the related run ends behind the neutral zone, the basic spot is the previous spot. When the related run ends beyond the neutral zone, the basic spot is the end of the related run. When there is no neutral zone, the basic spot is the end of the related run. When the run ends in the end zone after a change of team possession, there are 3 possibilities. If the result of the play is a touchback, the basic spot is the succeeding spot. If the change of possession occurs in the field of play and the related run ends in the end zone, the basic spot is the goal line. And if the result of the play is not a touchback, the basic spot is the goal line. To put it clearly, a running play comprises all live ball action when the ball is in player possession, except for the interval preceding a legal kick or a legal forward pass, actions that are part of other types of plays. Almost every down will end with a running play, with the exception of incomplete passes and kicks that become dead out of bounds in the end zone, or because the ball became dead with no one in player possession. Any player possession before a legal forward pass or kick is part of that pass or kick play. Finally, there can be a so-called instantaneous run, when there is a catch, recovery, or interception of a loose ball by a player who is on his knees or prone. Such an act starts a new run that then ends simultaneously and immediately. Chapter 11 provides a classic example that illustrates these concepts concerning running plays. Quote, Example 11-10. On 2nd and 4 at the A38, A34 runs to the A44, where B79 tackles him by the face mask. A34 fumbles the ball, which is recovered by grounded A65 at the A49. Ruling: a 15-yard penalty from the A44, which is the end of the related run. It will be 1st and 10. The first running play which includes A34's fumble and the loose ball interval that follows, ends at the A49, but the basic spot is at the end of the related run, the A44. The second running play, A65's, is not a factor in administration of the penalty because the foul occurred during the running play related to A34. End quote. Chapter 11 warns of 3 spots that are, quote, less obvious, end quote, spots where the end of a run occurs. Where a ball carrier hands the ball forward, illegally, or backward, legally, to a teammate. Where a backward pass is thrown, and where an illegal forward pass is thrown. There is also a 4th, less obvious spot where the run ends, the spot where possession is gained in situations when the momentum rule applies, as provided in an exception in 851A. 2 spots that are not the end of a run are where a legal forward pass is thrown or a legal scrimmage kick is made. And the chapter further notes that those 2 spots are always behind the neutral zone. So even if we were to mistakenly regard either one as the end of a run, such a spot would not ever be a basic spot, nor ever be an enforcement spot. To further complicate matters, there are important exceptions to the 3-and-1 principle. For specified fouls by the offensive team behind the neutral zone, the penalty is enforced from the previous spot. These exceptions are for illegal use of hands, holding, illegal block, and personal fouls. 10.2.2b. You'll notice that those fouls are ones typically associated with pass protection, indicating a philosophical position by the Rules Committee that the specified penalty yardage is already sufficient sanction for illegal acts in the backfield without adding the additional yardage a spot foul would tack on. But then there is an important exception to this exception. Again, 10.2.2b. If the offense commits any foul in its own end zone, the penalty is a safety. Notice that the result of the play may be a safety anyway. So if Team B were inclined to decline the penalty in hopes of getting the ball in favorable field position, the result would then still be a safety. Then there are further complicating provisions. This is why penalty enforcement is not for the lighthearted. In Rule 6, there are provisions to give Team B an option between 2 enforcement spots for all fouls by the kicking team, whether during a free kick play, 6.1.8, or during a scrimmage kick play, 6.3.13. Team B may choose enforcement from the previous spot with the play repeated, or Team B may choose enforcement from the spot where the subsequent dead ball belongs to Team B. In Rule 10, there are provisions for giving the offended team an option to tack on penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct fouls or personal fouls by the opponent of a team that scores a touchdown during the down. The offended team may choose enforcement on the try, on the succeeding kickoff, or on the succeeding spot in extra periods. You should note that the offended team may not necessarily be Team A. If Team B returns an intercepted forward pass for a touchdown and Team A committed a 15-yard foul either before or after the change of possession, Team B would be entitled to tack on the penalty yardage at its choice of the enforcement spot. This is an option that is very easy to overlook, particularly if Team A's foul occurred while it was still in possession of the ball, because of an obscure exception in 5.2.4 to the principle that if the team that is penalized possessed the ball at the time of its foul, it will keep possession of the ball. After a Team B foul during a successful field goal attempt, Team A may choose to cancel the score and replay the down. And If Team B's foul was unsportsmanlike conduct or a personal foul, it may choose the tack-on option, as in the situation we just covered. Well, Principle 2, the post-scrimmage kick spot. The basic spot is defined in 225.11 as the, quote, basic spot where post-scrimmage kick enforcement applies, end quote. This Article 11 in Rule 2 defines two key benchmarks for administering PSK penalties: the spot where the kick ends generally, and the spot where the kick ends in the special case of an unsuccessful field goal attempt untouched by Team B after it crosses the neutral zone. The specific criteria for when PSK enforcement applies are listed in 10.2.3. The two key benchmarks are 1, the spot where the kick ends during a scrimmage kick play, and 2, the spot where the kick ends during the special case of an unsuccessful field goal attempt. 1. Scrimmage kick, spot where the kick ends. When the kick ends in the field of play, the ball is caught or recovered, comes to rest, or goes out of bounds, the PSK spot is the spot where the kick ends. 225.11a. When the kick ends in Team B's end zone, the ball is caught or recovered, comes to rest, or goes out of bounds, the PSK spot is Team B's 20-yard line. 225.11b. When Team A bats the ball in Team B's end zone, thereby committing an illegal touching violation, the violation is deemed to have occurred at the Team B 20-yard line. 6.3.11, which is the post-scrimmage kick spot. 225.11, Special Case 2. When a Team B player who has made a valid or invalid fair catch signal catches the kick, the PSK spot is the spot where the ball was first touched. 225.11, Special Case 3. 2. Special cases during an unsuccessful field goal attempt, spot where the kick ends. When a field goal attempt is unsuccessful and the ball is untouched by Team B after crossing the neutral zone when it is declared dead, the PSK spot is the previous spot if that spot is on or outside Team B's 20-yard line, 225.11, Special Case 1A, or Team B's 20-yard line if the previous spot is between Team B's 20-yard line and the goal line, 225.11, Special Case 1B. The specific conditions that must apply for the PSK enforcement procedure to be used are listed in 10.2.3. The fundamental principle underlying PSK enforcement is treating fouls by Team B during a scrimmage kick as if Team B were in possession at the time the foul was committed, even though team possession does not change until the loose ball is caught or recovered by Team B or the ball becomes dead. This provision for us to play Let's Pretend is simply an exception to the provision in 2.4.1.3b that during a loose ball, team possession remains with the team whose player last had player possession. This PSK philosophy also means that the following provision in 5.2.4 applies to Team B once the ball is loose from a scrimmage kick. Quote, if a penalty is accepted for a foul that occurs after a change of team possession, the ball belongs to the team in possession when the foul occurred. End quote. Under the make-believe philosophy of PSK enforcement, Team B is deemed to have team possession if it commits a foul during the loose ball, and so Team B will retain possession after enforcement of the penalty for its foul during the kick. So, here are 5 boxes that must be checked off if we are to exercise the PSK procedure. Box 1. Team B fouls during a scrimmage kick. Note that the language does not say during a scrimmage kick play. That's important. You'll hopefully recall from 2:33 that a scrimmage kick play consists of the action during the interval between the snap and when the ball comes into player possession or becomes dead. Compare the definition of a scrimmage kick play with the definition of a kick and of a scrimmage kick in 2:16.1 and 2:16.7, respectively. Kicking the ball is intentionally striking the ball with the knee, lower leg, or foot. A legal kick is a punt, drop kick, or place kick made according to rule. A scrimmage kick is a punt, drop kick, or field goal place kick in or behind the neutral zone during a scrimmage down before team possession changes. So, until there is a kick, there is no kick. Fouls by Team B at the snap and before the punter or place kicker actually strikes the ball are not covered by the PSK procedure. Box 2. The kick is not during a try, a successful field goal, or in an extra period. Consider the consistency in philosophy of these exceptions. The fundamental reason for a routine scrimmage kick during the course of play is to transfer team possession to Team B in a way that maximizes Team A's obvious desire to place Team B in as poor field position as possible. The fundamental reason for a try or field goal attempt is to score, not to transfer possession. And during extra periods, the mechanism for transferring possession is spelled out by rule. In extra periods, the only consequence of Team A failing to earn a first down or to score is that its possession is ended, with no means for Team A to have any role in determining where Team B's possession will begin. So for a try, successful field goal, or in an extra period, there is no reason to play let's pretend that Team B has gained possession once the ball is kicked. Box 3. The ball crosses the neutral zone. This exception is also consistent with the PSK philosophy. The continuity of downs and a new series is not awarded until a kick crosses the neutral zone or Team B possesses the loose ball. As long as a ball loose from a kick remains behind the neutral zone, there are multiple scenarios in which Team A may keep the ball when the down is over. But once a scrimmage kick has crossed the neutral zone, it is a fait accompli that Team A has given up the ball and its series has ended, barring other circumstances that could return the ball to Team A at the end of the down. Box 4. The foul occurs before the end of the kick. Once the kicking play interval during the down ends, a running play interval begins. So fouls by either team then become subject to enforcement using the 3-and-1 principle relative to the basic spot provisions for a running play that occurs when there is no neutral zone. Box 5. Team B will next put the ball in play. If the down ends with Team A in possession for whatever reason, there is no reason for Team A to accept the penalty for a foul deemed to have occurred while Team B was deemed to be in possession. By 5-2-4, Team B would then possess the ball. We are susceptible to erroneously using the PSK procedure because it so commonly comes into play during scrimmage kicks. We are also susceptible if there are Team B fouls during a kick for which an explicit penalty statement calls for a specific enforcement spot. For example, for roughing or running into the kicker or holder, there is a prescribed penalty that includes 15 or 5-yard penalties from the previous spot with an automatic first down. 9-1-16A. Chapter 11 lists 6 Team B fouls that cannot have PSK enforcement. Roughing or running into the kicker, again 9-1-16. Leaping or leverage, 9-1-11. More than 11 players on the field while the ball is in play, 3-5-3B. players entering or leaving the field while the ball is in play. 3, 5, 2, A and B. Numbering violations. 142B through D and 922D. And unfair tactics. 922A through C. Let's look now at offsetting fouls. We know, of course, that if both teams commit live ball fouls during a down, the fouls offset and we have a do-over. However, consistent with the opening discussion in this episode about the distinction between a foul and its penalty, players who commit flagrant or unsportsmanlike conduct fouls are not absolved of consequences for their actions, even though their fouls may offset. The one quirk of offsetting fouls that we can inadvertently overlook is the provision when there is a change or multiple changes of team possession during a down. If the team last gaining possession had not fouled before then, it may, quote, refuse, end quote, not decline or reject offsetting fouls and retain possession after completion of the penalty for its foul. 10.1.4, exception 1. You'll hear officials commonly refer to this exception to offsetting fouls with the shorthand phrase clean hands principle. The clean hands option exists regardless of whether possession changed by accident or by design, whether by a fumble, pass interception, or scrimmage or free kick. There is a very interesting additional exception to offsetting fouls that could easily be overlooked. The exception applies, quote, when all Team B fouls that occur before possession changes are governed by post-scrimmage kick rules, Team B may indeed refuse offsetting fouls and accept post-scrimmage kick enforcement, end quote. 10.1.4, exception 2. Why do I say this is an interesting exception? Well, I ask you to consider the discussion we've just had about the fundamental principle underlying PSK enforcement. PSK pretends that fouls by Team B during a scrimmage kick occur as if Team B were in possession at the time the foul was committed. It strikes me that exception 2 backtracks on that principle by regarding Team B fouls during the kick as occurring before Team B possession, thereby preserving Team B's clean hands. The rules here, 10.1.3a versus 10.1.4, giveth and taketh away. It's as if the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Again, I repeat, enforcing penalties is not for the lighthearted. Special circumstances, tries, field goal attempts, and extra periods. With as much as could be covered regarding fouls under the special circumstances of tries, field goal attempts, and extra periods, I think thorough discussion is a topic better addressed in a separate episode following this tour of the Reading Study Guide. But I'll close with a really quick review of the general penalty enforcement procedures for these special circumstances. Try downs, covered in 8.3.3. 1. If there are fouls before a change of possession during a try down, it's pretty much business as usual, as on any scrimmage down during regular play. If Team B fouls during a try, Team A may repeat the try after enforcement or accept the result. Much like in 10.2.5, Team B personal fouls or unsportsmanlike conduct fouls may be carried over to the succeeding kickoff or succeeding spot in extra periods. A repeat of the down after enforcement may be from any point on or between the hash marks, on, or get this, or behind the yard line where the penalty leaves the ball. That last part may be a surprise, but it's conceivable that after an unsuccessful place kick, Team A would like to accept the penalty so it gets another kick attempt, but it doesn't like the more severe angle they may face if their kicker prefers to kick from one of the hash marks. If Team A fouls during a try, the try is over under two circumstances. The penalty includes a loss of down, or the penalty is declined by rule if Team B is in possession when the down ends. 2. If there are fouls after a change of possession, there are two possible scenarios. One team fouls or both teams foul. If both teams foul, there are three scenarios. Team A and Team B both foul after the change. Or Team A fouls before the change and Team B after. Or Team B fouls before the change and Team A after. Only one team fouls after a change of possession. This is what happens. Any score by a fouling team is canceled and the penalties are declined by rule. Both teams foul after a change of possession. Here's what happens. Any score by a fouling team is canceled and penalties are declined by rule. But two more provisions. If Team B fouls only after the change of possession, the fouls cancel and the try is over. If Team B fouls before the change of possession, the fouls offset and the down is repeated. Next, field goal attempts, covered in 10-5. Unsuccessful field goal attempts untouched by Team B are subject to post-scrimmage kick enforcement procedures because the kick play becomes a mechanism for transferring possession to Team B after Team A has failed in its principal goal of scoring. But as we've seen, there are two special case adjustments specified in 225.11 in determining the spot where the kick ends. The spot where the ball actually becomes dead is not the end of the kick. Instead, the end is either the previous spot or the 20-yard line, whichever is favorable for the opposing team. If Team B does touch the kick after it has crossed the neutral zone, all provisions regarding scrimmage kicks apply, including the usual PSK enforcement spot. When a field goal attempt is successful, Team A may accept the score and carry over the penalty for a Team B unsportsmanlike conduct foul or personal foul. And finally, extra periods. Fouls after a change of team possession during extra periods are handled very much like fouls during a try are handled. Penalties against either team are declined by rule. A score by an offending team is canceled, and if both teams foul, but Team B has so-called clean hands, the fouls cancel and the down is not repeated. Finally, in all three of these special circumstances, there are exceptions when flagrant personal fouls, unsportsmanlike conduct fouls, and live ball fouls treated as dead ball fouls are involved. A closing word. I hope you'll make time to listen to next week's episode for discussion of Chapter 12 of the Reading Study Guide, covering, and this is the guide's title, not mine, Loose Ends and Other Stuff. We'll see what nuggets are yet to be discovered as our 12-week dive into the Reading Study Guide concludes. Remember, I'm a member of the Austin Football Officials Association. Our extensive training of prospective officials is well underway, including classroom work, Zoom meetings, and on-field experience in 4 locations in the Central Texas area. We're very pleased to see that we have a large rookie class of men and women. If you'd like to learn more about us, contact us. You can email us at recruiting@afoa.ws, visit our website at www.austinfootballofficials.org, call us at 512-298-2987, or follow us on your favorite social media platforms, including Instagram at ATX Football Refs and Facebook at Austin Football Officials Association. Until next time, have a great week.